For being with us here on Court TV Live. Let's go together to Waterbury, Connecticut, and hear Alex Jones speaking outside the courthouse.
Case and their firm's prior non-disclosures. Importantly, Free Speech System is in control of its case and has been working closely with the Subchapter 5 trustee and its counsel. The bankruptcy court had no criticism of any of free speech activities and, in fact, retained our lead lawyer to now lead the case. Free Speech will actively and quickly retain replacement professionals, this time with the guidelines of the Subchapter 5 trustee. Again, this time with the guidelines of the Subchapter 5 trustee and lessons learned. The court's ruling opens up Free Speech to become a better, leaner, and more responsive operation, free from the issues and problems noted by the court with their prior professionals. And I think Judge Lopez in Texas has been very fair and been doing a great job. The media spun some changes in our bankruptcy procedures as some big, huge, evil, bad thing. It wasn't. We invited the Chapter 5 bankruptcy trustee in fact, demanded they come see our books, see the whole operation, and find out the truth. And so I guess that's precipitated them coming in and looking at things and talking to the court. So that said, that's a big issue to get out of the way. I wanted to make one more statement, and then I can take any of your questions here. And it's this. I have apologized for 6 years for anything that I did wrong questioning Sandy Hook. I didn't question Sandy Hook to be mean. I wasn't the leader of questioning Sandy Hook, but I did say things that were hurtful and not true. But I did not do it on purpose. I apologized 4 years ago on Joe Rogan. It's got over 100 million views for 30 minutes 4 years ago. But the corporate media constantly says that, oh, for the first time he apologizes. I apologized on Steven Crowder 3 years ago. 6 years ago, I said, I believe Sandy Hook happened. When I became extremely famous during the Trump campaign, Hillary Clinton ran $30 million of national ads saying I was Trump's brain. Look, I like President Trump overall, but I wasn't his brain. He doesn't listen to anybody but himself. Then Democrats believed that I actually run the Republican Party. I don't. And they believe that I'm like this Lex Luthor mastermind that controls everything. I don't. I basically don't even control my own life. And so I'm just simply here to say, I'm not the Sandy Hook man. I've already said I was sorry years and years ago. I've already tried to make restitution. We gave the court all the discovery. They defaulted us because they found there wasn't evidence of premeditated master plans with Sandy Hook and all this garbage. That's not true. I've taken responsibility for mistakes I've made. We have about a 95% accuracy rate on so many other subjects. I do question a lot of things. I'm more careful these days. Jussie Smollett, I was the first to go on air and say I thought Jussie Smollett was fake and a fraud. I knew I could be sued, but it just didn't sound right. So I said, I think it's a fraud. And as an American, I have a right to question something. Now, if that becomes hurtful to individuals and causes them pain, that is certainly a problem, and I have admitted to that. So that's where we stand. They are using this case to go after the First Amendment. Sandy Hook has been used to go after the Second Amendment and the right to keep and bear arms. Now it's being used to go after the First Amendment, and that's terrible. I don't want to be the person for mistakes I've had to be used to get rid of the First Amendment. And so there's, I'll answer your question in a second. The whole issue here is that there has been basically a lynch mob to get Alex Jones since Trump got elected. They looked at everything I'd done and decided Sandy Hook was one of the biggest mistakes I made. Nobody's perfect. And they blew up what I said and did, twisted it, took it out of context, and then said that I'm famous and successful because of Sandy Hook. Sandy Hook was 23 minutes, is there evidence in there? 23 minutes of what they think's bad in 10 years. 23 minutes. Now, I said some things that weren't right and hurtful, and I'm sorry for that, and I apologize for the 500th time. But that said, these lawyers have misrepresented what I said and did, and they've misrepresented everything that I stand for. And that's why I'm here today, and I appreciate you all coming out. Now I'm ready to take your questions.
On that point, Alex, on that point about the big picture, do you think that this proceeding here can, quote, take you down? You know, do you think this will stop what you're doing and what you've been doing?
That's a great question. That's a great statement, quite frankly. In the Texas trial, where they say I've been found liable for $50-something million. It's actually $5 million under Texas caps. But again, the media keeps reporting the fake news. They said, we want to take Alex Jones out. We want to silence him. We want to take away his megaphone. We want him to never have his platform again. This isn't about restitution to families. This isn't about any of that. It's about setting a precedent to annihilate free speech. And in their opening statements last week, these lawyers who already won $73 million from Remington for many of these same clients, they said, we want to stop and shut down Alex Jones. So their whole mission is to shut me down. Silence an American. If the jury says I'm bad and wants to give them all this money that doesn't exist, that's one thing. But don't sit there in the corporate media and act like this is about restitution for families. I'm being used to set a precedent, just like I was with deplatforming 4 years ago, to censor and shut everybody down, and this is un-American. If we don't like free speech, we should move to Russia or communist China. This guy had the next one. What is it? Dr. Steve Pachinik was the former head of CIA Psychological Warfare Operations, Tom Clancy's co-writer, and I really respected him. In the first few years, I didn't think Sandy Hook was...
You're not going to miss a moment of this because it's clearly not over. We have to squeeze in a break. We're going to continue filming and show it all to you right after this.
3200 now.
Thank you for being with us here on Court TV Live on this Wednesday. I'm your midday host, Julie Grant. If you're just now joining us, first of all, we thank you for that. If you've been staying with us, we thank you for that too. And you know that we were just covering the press conference being held outside of the courthouse in Waterbury, Connecticut, where Alex Jones is defending himself. Now, this is the damages trial. He's already been found liable by the judge. The jury's going to decide how much he has to pay those 9 families who are suing for the distress, the mental anguish they experienced after being harassed by many of his listeners after he called the Sandy Hook massacre a hoax. Now, there's a gag order on this case, which means the parties, the participants involved can't talk about it in the media. But he did yesterday, he is again today. He talked about the First Amendment, talked about Jussie Smollett, a whole host of issues, former President Donald Trump. He's all over the place in this press conference. You haven't missed a moment of it. We hit the pause button. Going back in now where we left off.
And the school safety individual, Halbig, and another professor out of Minnesota, they had said it was staged, and he said, yes, he believed it was. So off what Pachinik said a few times on air having debates, I said, yeah, I think this could be staged. And so...
You said it before they did.
No, I never did. I just answered your question. It's on record.
December 14th, 2012.
Okay, well, that's not what's being shown here. I appreciate you.
How are you going to convince the judge that you're telling the truth? You said the judge wants you there because you're lying. How are you going to convince the judge you're telling the truth, or the jury?
I don't understand your question. Okay, sir, go ahead.
Yes, you're on the verge of testifying here. What did you learn in the Austin trial?
Well, again, this wasn't a trial. Again, people think you're so stupid. They think I'm so stupid. We've checked all the legal files. We've checked the whole history of this. There's things being done in the Texas cases, there's 2 of them, and in the Connecticut case that have never been done before. A default is when somebody is in a lawsuit and they run to another country and don't defend it. Then they still have a 2-week or 3-week hearing on was there really damages and how much money do they have. It's all about money. Instead, when we gave them all, you see all my emails, text messages, everything's in there. We gave them the discovery, years of it. And they kept threatening to default us if we didn't give them more. So we went through millions of emails, all our text messages, gave them everything. And when they didn't find a case of this being some premeditated lie, it was just, I'm on a talk radio show on TV. I'm also on talk radio. I mean, every day I just go read articles and say talk about whatever I want on air. When they saw that there was not anything in their discovery, they went, okay, you're secretly hiding stuff. We find you guilty. And the judge issued an order here that's never been issued before in the United States, saying you will not say you're innocent. You will not say that you did not profit from Sandy Hook. You will not say that you complied with discovery, and you will not say the judge or the opposing lawyers are engaged in bad behavior. I could be somebody on trial found with 20 dead bodies in my basement, And if I want to get up and say I'm innocent, and if I want to get up and say the judge is wrong, I have a right as an American in a criminal or civil trial. This judge is saying she'll hold me in contempt if I say I'm innocent. But I'm not going to perjure myself and say that I premeditatedly engineered the whole Sandy Hook questioning thing when I'm on record I didn't. I'm not going to say I profited from Sandy Hook. From day one, it hurt us, but I never think about what I cover, how it does for us, or how it doesn't. And so you can't have a judge telling you to say that you're guilty when you're not. That is insane. Just because she found me in default and now it's just about damages, you can't then tell a person that's under attack that they then don't have their free speech. And so that's why they've been waiting to have me call. They said they'd call me last week, then they waited. They said they'd call me yesterday, then they waited. They said they'd call me today, and then they waited, because they don't know what to do when I go in there and call their bluff and say, I will not perjure myself. I didn't premeditatedly question Sandy Hook. I question everything. So that's the reality. That's the reality. All right, go ahead. Yes, ma'am. Sure. They've had a counterterrorism individual from the government in there. They've had a Pentagon psychological warfare expert in there claiming I'm Lex Luthor, when that's the job they actually did for the government, was disinformation overseas, on record. So you have real people with degrees from the Pentagon in disinfo claiming I am like, you know, the Mike Tyson of disinformation. It's absolutely ridiculous. I go print a bunch of articles off every day, play video clips on a talk show like Howard Stern, and give my opinions. So ma'am, to answer your question, what was the question again? Oh yeah, I heard it. Oh yeah, let me raise this point. I saw the articles everywhere. Oh, YouTube's biggest law channel with millions of viewers of the Alex Jones Sandy Hook trial in Connecticut suspends comments because of threats or whatever. We don't support threats against people, but that's not the reason they took it down. 90% of the comments were pro-Alex Jones, and the majority of comments didn't believe Sandy Hook happened. That's not because of me. They had a psychological warfare expert up there say 450 million people, that's all of the English-speaking world, heard me and don't believe Sandy Hook happened. That's BS, folks. There aren't some number and then claim that I convinced people to believe Sandy Hook didn't happen. Lying about WMDs is why people don't believe anything. Jussie Smollett lying, the Gulf of Tonkin, all the other hoaxes, all the other scams. Government and corporations have engaged in so many scams, so many fake staged events that people don't believe the government or the corporate media. You've lost the public. The public don't believe in you anymore. The public don't buy the mainstream media anymore. And that's why they hate you. I mean, the New York Times lied about WMDs on purpose. The New York Times lied about WMDs that came out in Senate reports on purpose to launch a war, and then they sit in judgment of me that questioned a mass shooting like I'm a bad person. It's absolutely outrageous. Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead.
Do you think you're the victim, or do you think the family should be the victim?
I think that the families are a victim of the process and these lawyers manipulating them and controlling them to go after the Second Amendment and the First Amendment. And I also think that in the process, I have been used as a straw man to build an image of Alex Jones that isn't really accurate. I've come here and for 6 years said I believe it happened and apologized if I caused pain. But the truth is, I didn't create the story, and I didn't create the distrust in the system that led and caused of this. So here's a great example in the Texas case. I'm watching a wonderful, beautiful lady. Man, I've been reading her stuff now. She's so impressive. I want to support what she's doing with youth. Scarlett Lewis. I didn't even know who she was. Never said her name when I questioned Sandy Hook. And that was a mistake. I should have gone and researched it and humanized it. And she's up there beautifully saying about how she forgives Adam Lanza, the guy that killed her son, and how she saw him go up to heaven with all of this stuff. And then she turns to me and says, this morning you said I'm fake. And this morning you said I'm a horrible person. And I said, well, did you see that? No, my lawyers told me. I went on tape the show that morning and said, I've seen this woman. She's beautiful, she's smart, she's real. And again, I believe the kids died. And then their lawyers told them that I said that day. And they love it. The New York Times loves it. And the lawyers love it because they're the WMD masters. They're the actual spy masters. They're the deception people that are manipulating and deceiving America, and they're caught. And they think pointing at my mistakes will give a facelift to the corporate media that is dead on arrival. The corporate establishment media is dead. Local media is not dead. New independent media is not dead. And any media that starts telling the truth isn't dead. But Tucker Carlson is popular because he's a populist and loves truth and justice. I'm popular because people know I'm real. I'm not being scripted. I'm not being told what to say. I didn't come here with some pre-plan. I just get on the air and say what I believe and stand up and tell the truth. And sometimes I'm wrong, and a lot of times I'm right. Go ahead.
Hey, why did you not show up to contest the liability in these 3 cases?
Okay, here's the corporate media. Here's the corporate media saying, why did you not show up to contest liability in these cases? I spent more than $10 million over 4 years opening my arteries up and giving the courts in Texas and Connecticut everything. 9 million emails searched, all our text messages, everything. Then they'd play a game and go, well, it wasn't on your phone, but we subpoenaed your employee later and found it on them because I didn't save it on my phone. And it was nothing incriminating. So I'm going to say again, because the judge says I didn't comply with discovery isn't true. Because the judge says I'm guilty isn't true. Notice how the judge won't let my lawyer bring up Hillary Clinton, who ran on Sandy Hook and Alex Jones. You know, we're not political. But let's bring up some FBI agents and some Defense Department officials to talk about Alex Jones as a terrorist. Use your head. This is a political hit job, plain and simple. Why didn't I show up? I showed up here. I was ready last week. They ran, I was scared to be here. They told me don't come. The plaintiff's lawyers. But the headlines were Jones doesn't show. They said we don't want you. I show up yesterday. We don't want you. I show up today. We don't want you. And this guy's going to report I didn't show up today. That's lying. That's corporate fake media. And that's the shame on you. I'm here. Look, listen. I'm here, ladies and gentlemen. This lie that I didn't show up to all those depositions, more than 8 depositions, the fact that we didn't open up everything because we had nothing to hide, and they didn't find us premeditatedly with some Lex Luthor plan to get rich off Sandy Hook. It was a small part of our coverage. That's another thing the judge ordered. I not say it's a small part. Their evidence is like 24, 23 minutes of me talking about this.
Oh, and there's more. I promise you, don't go anywhere. We got to hit a break. We'll be right back to that press conference after this.
Blood all over the house.
A senseless tragedy in small-town America.
This was a pre-planned execution.
It was a feud between families that ended with multiple murders.
Came in like thieves in the night and took 8 lives.
George Wagner faces murder charges in connection with the killing.
Wagner's brother and parents also charged.
It's very much a family affair. All for one, one for all.
It's a chilling story. It will be an intense trial.
The Ohio Family Massacre Trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
By Whisker. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. Oh boy, is it a sight to see outside of the courthouse at Waterbury, Connecticut, where Alex Jones has scheduled a press conference. He had a press conference yesterday. He scheduled this one today. Lots of media there. We, Court TV, are there as well. And I want to point out a couple of things. I want to say, first of all, thank you for your questions on Twitter. We've been getting some great ones, and a lot of them are similar. So one of them is, what exactly is contempt, right? Because there's a gag order here, and the judge referenced earlier, you know, you can be in contempt of court. So contempt, think of it as kind of like being disobedient to the court, doing something that goes against the court order. You can be held in contempt, meaning that the judge has the ability to do a couple things in terms of ramifications to you if the court would so decide. And it varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. sanctions things like maybe a fine, maybe community service, maybe even jail time. These are the kinds of things that can happen if you disobey a court order and the judge finds you disobeyed that order. You can be held in contempt. So that is what that's all about. Let's go back in, because clearly he knows about this gag order and must not care. We hit the pause button, so you're going to see what he said as soon as we went to that commercial break.
Do you think it's enough to take you down?
Okay, I'm going to go back to Hearst Publishing. I'm going to go back to Hearst Publishing, Rosebud over here. I'm going to go back to Rosebud over here, and I'm going to say this. Is it enough to take me down? No. People are more hungry than ever for the truth. Alex Jones could go away today, and there are 1,000 more people, more well-spoken and more truthful than I am. So it doesn't matter. No, the system has failed. The system has no credibility. It's a crisis. I'm not happy it's happened. I want to have a good system. I want to have a social contract, and I want America and the world to be free. Look, guys, while we're here obsessing over Alex Jones questioning Sandy Hook, Russia just called up 300,000 troops and said they're getting ready for nuclear war. Okay, the United States, I know the troops over there, the United States is in a proxy war with Russia right now, ladies and gentlemen. We have millions of people dying from these so-called vaccines. We have massive myocarditis in our children. They admit the vaccines don't work. And like, while we're here, no one cares about the actual children dying from these Pfizer and Moderna shots. Nobody cares that Adam Lanza was on a bunch of serotonin reuptake inhibitor mass murder pills. Nobody wants. That's right. This guy just said, look, this liberal just said, I'm worse than Adam Lanza. Nobody even knows who Adam Lanza is, the guy that killed the children. Nobody even knows who Adam Lanza is, the guy that killed the children. Go ahead, sir. Hold on. He just wants to shut down our... Sir, come over and ask a question. I can't hear you.
You must be free to question.
Are you concerned about being held in contempt of court? We've been covering it on Court TV. You know, the judge, not happy this morning. Your response to what you may face when you start to testify.
I mean, look. The judge has not issued a gag order. Or did she do one this morning? I wasn't watching.
She said that she's going to address something with you when you're in court.
Okay, good.
What do you expect, and what are you going to say?
I mean, whatever she wants to do to me, she ordered me to say I'm guilty. Have you ever heard of that? I mean, I could be an axe murderer, and they can't do that. So a judge can't order you. Just don't engage him. It's what he wants. Listen, this judge, I recognize the bankruptcy judge I have because it's respected. And actually, the thing he said, we've had problems. I actually agree with the judge in Texas, federal judge. When a judge is being fair, I agree. This judge says we didn't turn over discovery. Not true. This judge says I have to say I'm guilty. Not true. This judge, they gave my lawyers a whole list. My lawyer said, don't say these things. And I said, I can't sit there and lie and perjure myself to comply with an order. So I may just take the Fifth Amendment tomorrow, not because of incrimination of what I said about Sandy Hook, but because I'm not allowed to answer a question truthfully. I didn't premeditate covering Sandy Hook. So
the other thing is, I see you have security here. Are you worried for your own safety?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we do have to have security. There are people threatening us. Most folks, when I've been here in Connecticut, have been big fans and are very supportive of what we're doing. But there are some, unhinged leftists out there that are pretty dangerous.
All right. Anything else that you want to say that you haven't been asked?
Well, listen, you're a reporter. I didn't know what the judge said. Tell us what she said.
Well, the judge said that she will address it with you when you are in court because everyone was under a gag order and you've addressed the media and you've been speaking on your shows about the proceedings. Yeah.
I didn't know there was a gag order. There was a specific thing she said on the stand that I can't say. So now she claims there's a gag order.
When are you expected to testify? Is that today or tomorrow?
Well, they told me I was going to testify last week, and they moved it, and then said that I was scared to come. Then they said I was testifying yesterday, and then moved it and said I was scared to come. And then now they did it again today, and I'm right here like I was yesterday. We're here. I was up at the court yesterday.
We see you. You're here.
Yeah.
But why not be at the defense table with the attorneys that you're paying?
You do your show, right?
Well, I have to do my show, but also they did this thing in Texas where it was like a struggle session in communist China or a truth session in South Africa, where they sit there and people point at me and yell at me as if it's a sentencing hearing for a murder. So I'm not going to be a puppet or a crash dummy and just sit in there and be yelled at. Quite frankly, none of this matters for everybody's free speech and for this template they're launching to get rid of free speech. I don't have all this money they've made up. I don't have all these things they say. So when the reality sets in that they're not going to silence me, and there's no money, it's all an exercise in fertility. So whatever they do in here is a Pyrrhic victory.
I know you have limited time. There's other reporters with questions.
Kind of begs the question, is bankruptcy another, for you yourself? Is that something that if worse comes to worse?
Yeah, I'm not even worried about it. Yeah, all I got's a house and a couple cars. I'm not worried about it.
You mean they can't get blood from a turnip, right?
Yeah, they can't. Okay, who else wants questions? We'll get out of here.
Can we just clarify? Do you see the families as just tools of the lawyers, or do they also want to attack the First Amendment?
I mean, look, I get families losing their children being filled with rage. And I think a minority of the families have sued me, and they have moved their rage from Adam Lanza to me. And they literally have hate in their eyes, many of them, and anger that I've seen on the news. That was not the case with Scarlett Lewis or her ex-husband, who I found to be very sweet, nice people who I think are good people. And I genuinely said, I like your foundation, teaching kids to be loving, not violent. I would like to support it. I don't want to be the Sandy Hook guy. Again, I'm in front of like 20, 30 cameras here saying, I believe it happened. I said it years ago. And yes, these are obviously ambulance-chasing lawyers who just want the publicity and the money. Everything they claim about me, I got interviewed by a guy named Andrew Callahan about a month ago. It's a popular YouTube channel. And I told him through my producer, I said, I want to cover Sandy Hook. He comes, the whole interview's about Sandy Hook, and then he makes hundreds of thousands of dollars on his Patreon selling it. Everybody's making money off Sandy Hook but me. I'm being destroyed by it. It's ridiculous. I tell people I don't want to. I had a reporter ask me yesterday, will you stop talking about it? Are you kidding? I have nightmares about it. I want to throw up. I mean, I am so sick of hearing about it. I barely ever covered it. 24 minutes in evidence, or 25 or 22. I mean, I'm sick of it. So no, I love the parents, and I care about them, and I understand their anger, and they need to go get psychoanalyzed, and like understand.
Should we not cover school shootings?
Should we not cover? Yeah, they don't want us covering them. That's a great question, ma'am. I didn't touch Uvalde because I realized how big my show was. I didn't realize that when I said something 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, it had that big of effect. As you grow older and you learn, you learn mistakes. But when Uvalde happened, I came out and said, the cops did a great job. I don't believe anything's wrong, just because I thought Texas is better than places like Connecticut or Florida where the police stood down. Definitely in Florida and Parkland. And then the police stood down for 77 minutes and were putting hand sanitizer, and then the state police say they were lied to, and the governor says they're lied to. The governor of Texas says they still don't know the truth about Uvalde. Obviously, I believe that psycho went and killed those kids. It's hard to believe that stuff goes on, but it's even more incredible. It's even more incredible to believe that he said he would shoot the school up and nothing was done. I mean, what is going on that young men want to do this? I know why I didn't want to believe Sandy Hook, because as a gun owner, I'm being blamed for kids dying. But at the same time, I am like, what is going on with these crazy people doing this?
What do you think about the FBI testifying in this and joining the lawsuit?
Oh, I want to say something about this FBI agent. I never heard his name till he sued me. I never showed a photo of him. I never said his name. Because, again, I wasn't the guy that said Sandy Hook didn't happen for the first year or so. I kind of picked up on the big story, the big viral story, and said, well, maybe so. And I never knew this guy. He's up there crying, saying, I have powerful friends, and I'm coming after him, and I don't even know his name. Under Connecticut law and under Texas law, you can't sue somebody you've never said their name. I never said this FBI agent's name. I never said Scarlett Lewis or Neil Heslin's name. Under Texas law, you can, but they don't care because I'm Alex Jones and I deserve to be destroyed. And so the judges just ignore it. And so that's why I'm calling the judge in Texas and the judge in Connecticut tyrants, because that's what tyrants do. They've
this
not.
FBI agent should withdraw. This FBI agent should withdraw. What do you think about?
You say you're a nurse. You want to say something about vaccines? What have you seen with the shots?
I'm a nurse.
Tell folks.
My husband almost died at Bristol Hospital because he refused remdesivir.
We have to hit the pause button because we're at the bottom of the hour. This thing is still going. You're going to see all of it in its entirety. How about our crime and justice correspondent, Matt Johnson, getting right in there, asking him that tough question about the gag order that's in place. And did you hear what he said? He said he didn't know that there was a gag order. Remember us playing that clip when his lawyers were talking with the judge earlier, and they were essentially saying, Judge, you know we can't violate this thing, but we don't know if our client is going to abide by this. Seems to be a big contradiction there. Just saying. You're going to see more of this press conference in just a moment, back here on Court TV Live.
.com now.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. Let's go back to Waterbury, Connecticut, shall we, and see more of the press conference being held by Infowars host Alex Jones. He's the defendant in this lawsuit that's being heard at the courthouse right behind where he's set up, speaking to the media. And he hasn't been present except for yesterday and today, because today he might be called by the plaintiffs. But before that happens, he wanted to speak to the media about all sorts of things. He's also taking questions. Let's go in now where we left off.
Here, but I want to just say this up front.
FBI should withdraw from the lawsuit.
I want to say this up front.
They have no right to use their name. The FBI should not be involved in this lawsuit.
That's right. That's crazy. But let me say one thing, ma'am. Let me say one thing. Ladies and gentlemen, we're already at war with Russia. U.S. troops that I know are fighting and dying and killing Russians. Russia just called up 300,000 troops and is threatening nuclear war. In their doctrine, when they start losing on their border, they use nuclear weapons. So people ask me, how am I handling all this? I'll tell you how I'm handling it. I'm sorry for the families. I'm sorry I'm involved in this, and I wish it never happened. But, bro, I'm not worried about this. Nuclear war, inflation. The head of FedEx just said they've seen a 30+% reduction in orders in the last month. They've never seen that. The economy is collapsing. We're seeing that at Infowars. And so I love everybody. I love the families. Hell, I even love these lawyers that are attacking us, because all I want's a future for my children. This is extremely dangerous. We got lied to about COVID, lied to about the lockdowns. The CDC admits they lied about it all. So, yes, I'm a bad person. I'm not perfect. We're all sinners. But compared to these people, folks, compared to the globalist, I'm a saint. And so that's the facts. You have a question, sir?
Yes. Yesterday on your show, you said that you're not profiting off of any coverage related to Sandy Hook or any of your news coverage. However, the Free Speech Systems corporate rep testified last week that the purpose of all the coverage is to drive visitors to the web store. Do you have a response to that?
Listen, let me explain this. We had 3 corporate reps that actually worked at Infowars come forward. And the judge said, I'm going to default you. I don't like their answers. So out of Connecticut, Norm Pattis, my lawyer, hired Brittany Paz. Seemed like a nice lady. She came to Austin for 3 weeks. We opened everything up to her. And I don't dislike her. I'm not attacking her. But she got up there and just had no idea what she was talking about. Okay? The judge ordered us to get a corporate rep lawyer and to open up everything, or they default us. Again, always squeezing. More discovery will default you. And then, oh, we're defaulting you, no discovery. Let me explain how things work. Obviously, we want to drive traffic to the website. Obviously, we put out stories. But I put out stories I think are interesting and I think are true. Most of the time we're right, sometimes we're wrong. I've never denied that obviously a big audience brings in revenue. The fact is we don't sit there and go, oh, let's cover this Sandy Hook thing because that will get us a big audience. I cover mainstream corporate media systems calculate. I'm the opposite. I don't calculate. Look at me right here. And so that's the big lie right there, is that that's going on. So I'm not going to attack the corporate rep. We were ordered to do that by the court. We did it to comply. We thought if we had a professional lawyer come in and look at everything, they'd be able to do it. And it still wasn't good enough for the court. So I got to tell you, I don't want to say the fix is in here, but it's pretty amazing what's going on.
Sir, this is a legitimate question that I've had for a long time.
Yeah.
You're here in front of our cameras saying how it's taking corporate media and established media. Why are you speaking to this?
Oh, well, that's always an oxymoron to say, oh, you don't like the corporate media, but you'll talk to them. Most of the time, I refuse interviews in the corporate media. I found press conferences and live streams, we can actually get some truth out. And local media I found a lot better than national media. So if there was just national media here, just CNN, just ABC, the real gold standards of fake news, I wouldn't be here. But because there's independent journalists, because there's citizens here, because there's newspaper reporters, because there's other cable channels that actually take live feeds, that's why we're here. We're here because Court TV's here. We're here because Crime and Law's here. We're here because there is some still somewhat neutral media that will actually just take what we're saying and put it out. If you want to find I want to say something here that's key. Don't listen to corporate media. Don't listen to the establishment. Don't listen to Republican, Democrat leaders. Don't listen to think tanks. If you want to hear why they fear Infowars.com, if you want to hear why they fear Alex Jones, go to Infowars.com and actually hear my show. Watch what we say. Watch what we do. See what we really say. And you'll find that liberals, conservatives, gays, straight, everybody loves us. That's why they hate us, is we're very, very popular populist. I have the #1 book in the world, The Great Reset and the War for the World. The last month it's been off and on #1. It's like #6 today. It exposes Klaus Schwab. It exposes Bill Gates. It exposes the New World Order with their own quotes. #1 book in the world. And liberals and conservatives and everybody are buying it because they want to hear what they're not supposed to hear. So, listen, if you want to hear unfiltered, sometimes we're wrong, sometimes we're right. You want to hear unfiltered, real analysis from the wild man from Texas, from the Texas tornado, you go to Infowars.com and the audio and video feeds and what we say are there. And I ask the public to judge me for yourself instead of believing 10 years of stuff condensed down to 24 minutes that they're showing in here. That a lot of it I go, man, that's not nice what I said. That does suck. And I've said that I don't like that. And listen, I don't calculate. When I apologized 6 years ago and 5 years ago and 4 years ago, it was weird. It's like the more I apologize, the more they attack. Okay? But I really felt bad about what I did because I figured out Sandy Hook really happened. And then when I testified a month ago in Texas that I believe it happened and apologized to the families, AP said, finally, on the stand, he admits to it. What the hell? Joe Rogan, 4 years ago, first 30 minutes, episode 1255. Joe put me to task. I came to his show to apologize, to get this on record. So I really appreciate you coming out.
Legislation. It comes down to legislation. And if he's not allowed to speak, how do we determine what laws to pass? Every school shooting is linked together with psychiatric.
Let me just say this in closing. This court is on trial with its extrajudicial tyranny. Big Pharma, almost every mass shooter has been on psychotropics. The inserts of the drugs say it can cause mass murder and suicide. And I didn't premeditatedly put out these drugs that do this. I didn't premeditatedly put out Oxycontin that it turned out the company knew was addictive and would kill people. I am not the ultimate villain. I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. But I'm not premeditatedly a bad person. I mean well. So people can point at me and say, there's the bad guy, he's the bad guy, and feel good about who they are. But at the end of the day, if you want to know the truth, just research it for yourself and come to Infowars.com and see the forbidden information that you're not supposed to see at Infowars.com. But guys, as for this trial, ma'am, I'm going to call you up here in a minute. As for this trial, no, well, you come over here too. Tell us how we're bad. Come on over. I'm not like the corporate media. Come tell me how I'm bad. No, it's okay. Come on over. This isn't scripted. By the way, anybody can call into my show. Anybody can call into my show. It's unscripted. The left says I have fake callers. Anybody can call my show weekday mornings, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. I love people that disagree. I love to hear why I'm wrong. Ma'am, come on over here. I'm not perfect. I'll be sweet to you. Come on over here. Seriously, man, this is real. I do a talk show like Oprah Winfrey or Dr. Phil or Howard Stern. You know, Howard Stern said that he'd like to rape the children at Columbine. He said he'd like to rape the children. I think that's a terrible thing, Howard Stern said. He'd like to rape the dead bodies of the children. He said it to be shocking. He said it to make money. I didn't say that. And even though I hate what Howard Stern said, he has a right to say it. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. So Howard Stern supports me being taken off air for questioning a mass shooting, but he wants to rape the dead bodies of little girls. Howard Stern wants to rape the bodies of dead little girls, and then he sits in judgment, just like the New York Times sits in judgment of me while they lie about WMDs and then kill millions of people with starvation. And Madeleine Albright goes on TV and says 500,000 dead Iraqi kids is a good price to pay, and they laud her at state funerals like she's the Queen of England. thank you so much for being here. Go ahead.
What are you guys going to write? Because I've read the coverage of this court, and it's not fair and balanced. We have Court TV, AP, we have 3, Channel 12 News, Connecticut.
Ma'am, I got to go. I want to thank the press for being here. They say I'm testifying tomorrow. They'll probably cancel it and claim I'm scared because they're deceiving you. Infowars.com, Infowars.com, tomorrow's news today.
Report equally.
Wow, I wish I would have counted how many times he encouraged everybody watching that press conference to go to Infowars.com, telling people to make a judgment for themselves about him and telling everyone that he is not the ultimate villain. There is so much here to talk about. We're going to do it right after this break. We thank you for watching Court TV Live. Please continue tweeting us at Court TV. We'll be right back after this.